Welcome to the Addiction Connection podcast, connecting the hope of the gospel with the heart of addiction, with a special guest, Tim Arndt, who works with me at First Baptist Church in Jacksonville. He's downtown, and I am at the Nocatee campus. He pastors and works with young adults, 18 to 25, kind of has his finger on the pulse with these kinds of things. So I do want to start with a Bible verse at the end of Judges. Chapter 21, it says, in those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. We did a live stream where we talked about Burning Man. If you're not familiar with Burning Man, when you watch this, you will be. I was excited to interview him. I think you'll enjoy it and learn some things. And my hope is that you'll be more aware, because Burning Man comes up August 30th. You may hear people who want to go. There's 70,000 people that attend this event. To me, it's a very evil, spiritually dark event that could actually ruin people's lives or really harm them in certain ways. At least now you'll have a little more education on it and information, at least, to be able to warn people about some of the dangers, some of the things you'll hear in the podcast. So without further ado, here is Tim Arndt. We wanted to live stream this so that you could send in your questions or even comments that you may have. Tim's important because A, he's my co-laborer. We're pastors together at the same church, First Baptist Church, Jacksonville. And the other thing about Tim that you need to know is he's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, pickleball partner to play with. He's like 7'5". How tall are you, Tim?
I'm 6'6", but for a Filipino, that's like 7'5". So
yeah, I knew it was tall. I just didn't know exactly how tall. But when you come up to the net in pickleball, I mean, people think that guy's 7'5". Like, you just have a very powerful presence at the net. So it's fun to go up with you. And if I ever run up to the net, I'm slow to get up there usually, but when we're both up there, it's fun, because I feel like, man, I'm with the most powerful pickleball player in the universe. So tell us a little bit about you first, so people can know who you are.
Yeah. So I am the college and career pastor downtown at our church. We have 2 college campuses here in Jacksonville that I spend most of my time on. And so we do a lot of evangelism. We're trying to grow and doing more discipleship. And then we have our ministries here at the church. So we're just trying to reach college students. I noticed, just anecdotally, growing up, I grew up in a smaller town, went to a very conservative Christian church. And the vast majority of my friends who grew up in the church shortly after going to college stepped away from the church. Quickly got into some campus ministry with an organization called Ratio Christi. They're an apologetics campus ministry. And if I were to say there's one problem that captured my ministry more than anything else, it's probably that problem. All these people who grew up in the church and leave the church, where did they go? Like, what do they believe now? Did they all become atheists? Well, that's actually a very small percentage. There's a very small percentage of our country are atheists. Other religions, not really. In part, they were becoming, I guess, what we could call secular, where they're just living a worldly life, trying to be successful and be happy and all of that. But that'd only be part of the picture. When you look at what they became in terms of their beliefs, they became spiritual, we can call it. Just kind of vaguely spiritual. And if you want to get a look at what that spirituality looks like, the most clear example is Transformative Festivals. They went to these very fun, very appealing transformative festivals and found a more attractive spirituality there.
Wow. So sad.
But they had a real rise in the later 20th century again, where they started coming back up. And today, a lot of them view it as a movement. There's about 1,000 of these festivals throughout the world now. The larger ones will have over 500,000 people in attendance. which is nuts. And they make things like, Woodstock and these big concerts back in the day look small. And it happens in what's called Black Rock City, Nevada, and it's in the middle of the desert. About 70,000 people now, middle of the desert where there's nothing, absolutely nothing. And they essentially make a mini city of 70,000 people on the desert for 8 days. So everyone's camping in the desert, which is actually extremely uncomfortable. It's extremely difficult, but that's the place where they can go and people aren't going to hinder them or complain about them and that sort of thing. A lot of people will bring their art there, whatever kind of art. There's tons of art there. There's a lot of music. So it's called Burning Man, right? And the man is a structure now usually 50 to 60 feet tall that they build out of wood. And the man is at the center of the camp all week long. And then there's also a temple. And every year the man's a little different. Every year the temple's a little different. And there's a different theme. And so then throughout the week, people are doing these different things. And on Saturday, they burn the man. So that's why it's Burning Man. They set him on fire. And then on Sunday, they burn the temple. They call the Burning Man a petri dish or a blank canvas. This is your opportunity to self-express. There's no boss, no family, no neighbors, no friends who are going to hold you back from being who you really are. And so people get to experiment with their identity. So they might change their name. They might dress different. They might not wear any clothes at all. They might pretend they're an animal. Hindered self-expression as long as you don't harm anybody and that sort of thing. Spiritual kind of events going on and seminars, sexual events going on, drugs are happening.
Like there's no economy. You have to pay for coffee. You have to pay for ice. I saw that. And it would be miserable. Like it's over 100 degrees some days. And then at night, it drops down to freezing. And it would take a lot of money and investment to be able to pull this off. I think people kind of feel like when they become an alternate identity, they can sin or they can do whatever they really want to do. And that's who they really are. But we know that that's fictitious. It doesn't work that way.
I was visiting with a friend and his friend was there and he'd just gone to one of these transformative festivals. And he's like, man, I just wish all of life could be like that because everyone's one and everyone loves each other and you can just be honest and be yourself. And so when you look at burners, those are the people who go burners, you see a lot of our culture's elites have been burners. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, two guys who founded Google, Hollywood A-listers, famous musicians, famous athletes. So one of the ways I see these things hit the culture is what's on the shelves at Barnes & Noble. Now, if you go to a Barnes & Noble, they'll have like this huge section on spirituality. I mean, giant. And then like all the teen fiction is paranormal fiction. And so this like spiritualism, this like pantheistic, polytheistic, oftentimes witchcrafty spiritualism is blending into our world in so many ways, but these transformative festivals certainly are like a concentrated source of that.
Since I do a lot of drug addiction stuff, ayahuasca and ibogaine is probably in that, but they're trying to use ibogaine more medically, therapeutically, but psilocybin, which is, the magic mushrooms, and peyote and iboga, or however you say that one, but all these hallucinogenic drugs. And the big move right now is to sit in a circle. Everybody takes a hallucinogen. Sometimes you drink it, like ayahuasca, I think is a drink, and you drink it. And they make the potion for everybody, and everybody hallucinates together. It makes you think about the demonic world. And I've had people tell me, they said, Mark, I used acid, LSD, and I had a trip where I saw into the spiritual realm. Now, maybe it's their brain and how they think the spiritual realm should be, or maybe but it scared them anyway. It stunned them. And even one of them, I think later on, the Lord used that experience to help them to see that he is real. And they ended up repenting and placing their faith in Christ Jesus. But, and so God is always redemptive, bringing good from bad. I think about these kinds of festivals and the kind of stuff that goes on, the young people that are going and potentially ruining their lives. I mean, you say ruin their lives. God's redemptive, and we know he brings good from bad, but people are making choices and giving themselves up to all kinds of stuff. The diseases that are transmitted, how women get mistreated and abused, and we won't say some of the provocative words, but I'm stunned. And every time I hear you talk about this, it really inspires me. It kind of fires me up to do what God's called me to do in our church and around the world, to try to help people wake up and see the dangers in this stuff. This isn't play. This is for real.
It seems really appealing, but the deeper you go, the more of a trap it becomes. I shared an example in the class I did. There's this a fictional book that has this powerful moment in it. I can't remember exact one it is, but it's from the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. And there's something very wrong going on in the Capitol. And so the heroes, they're like trying to figure out what's going wrong. And so they like sneak in and they break into the palace, and they see this, all these people were like dancing and walking in this big circle. And as they're dancing and walking in this big circle, there's all these tables of food, there's all these alcoholic beverages, there's all these rooms on the side that they could go in with partners and that kind of thing. And so all these people are just fully giving themselves over to their desires. But the heroes, they are trying to figure out what's going on and, save the city and all that stuff. They break in deeper past these barriers, and they see this dark entity, and there's more people in a tighter circle going around this entity, except these people are no longer having fun. These people are walking, but their feet are bleeding. Their eyes are bloodshot. Some of them are crawling. And this picture to me is like this example of the trap that people fall into with this radical self-expression, to just give themselves over to their desires. And so a lot of people are attracted to Burning Man and these Transformative Festivals. They'll say, this is where you want to be. But some people go, and like you said, there's some very real consequences for this. We're trying not to use the word so we don't get flagged on YouTube, but so many women get harmed that they actually have mandatory reading for everyone, what to do if this happens to you. Every year, there's terrible examples of bad things that happen to people. They have seminars where you can experiment with stuff I'm uncomfortable even saying out loud, just like really, really debased things. And as people go further and further into exploring their desires, a lot of times it leads to, enslavement, regret, and all of that.
We talked about the verse at the very end of the book of Judges that says, in those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes.
We should talk about the founding a little bit. So
yeah.
So it started in the 80s, and there was two co-founders,
Larry Harvey and Jerry James.
Okay. So he talked about how these different counterculture clubs came together and how it grew into this bigger thing. He should have attributed to others a lot of the best things about it. He attributed to himself. And then there's some dark side to it as well that he wouldn't talk about. And so actual audio recording, you can listen to it online. The co-founder, he said, so the inspiration for the first Burning Man, who was about 8 foot tall, and they just like burned on the beach, they made an effigy of his ex. He was having some drama with his ex over custody of the children and that sort of thing. So this wasn't a man, this was a woman.
Right.
And so they went on the beach and burned it. It drew a lot of attention. And so when people were asking what it was, they weren't going to tell them what it actually was. Every single year, if you look at the man always has like very wide hips and like very thick thighs. And his roommate said, it's always been a female. But we figured if we were honest about it, people would say, oh, you're a bunch of woman haters, and that wouldn't sell, right? And so it started with a man's hatred for his ex.
I pulled up some of the tenets. They have the radical inclusion, anyone may join, welcome the stranger. And they also have the radical self-reliance, discover, rely on your own inner resources. If I'm going to self-rely, how do I rely on communal effort and civic responsibility? Like, to me, these 10 principles, they kind of contradict each other at different points, that man is good and they're relying on that for these principles and all this. Really, when I try to teach sin nature and talk about it, I think about it as, I really think man is good, or Mark is good, this man is good, and God is not as good. I wouldn't say he's bad, but he's just not as good as me. And so these founding guys who started this, he's mad at his wife or ex-wife, soon to be, and they burn a woman, but they're afraid to tell anybody because they realize if we tell people the truth, they're not gonna get behind this. So it's burning man, not burning woman. And then there's another temple or another burn that they do. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when they burn the man, it's kind of a party. But they burn the temple, it's kind of like a solemn and supposed to be healing sort of thing. Remember, it's ephemeral. It's different. It's there, then it's gone. And I was reading their official statement on their website about this year's theme. This year, the theme, it's Axis Mundi, a place where like the worlds collide, like the spiritual and earth. And they use examples of Hindu temples and Buddhist temples and Native American shrines and all this. But they also use the example of Jacob's ladder, like a heaven meets earth kind of place. What happens at the temple, here's one of the main things that happen. So people will bring objects identified with their pains and their traumas and their hurts, right? Let's say they had a sibling who died in the service. They'll come bring their dog tags and they can staple it or tape it to the wall. If they had a child who died, they could bring bow or blankie or something like that of the child. If there was, whatever it is, trauma with their parents, they'll bring an object that reminds them of their parents. And so then they staple it, tape it, whatever, attach it to this temple. On the last day, when they burn the temple, people observe largely in silence. They meditate and that sort of thing. And for them, they view it as a way as, this is me letting my trauma go, letting my pains, my hurts, letting all that go. But as Christians, it's kind of sad, because those pains they felt, they're not just emotions that you need to let go of. They're not just these objects that can burn away. We know that all suffering at its root was founded in the fall, with Adam and Eve's sin leading to this world being a place of suffering. All the sins that were sinned against them were because of the sinfulness of mankind. And then, as much as all of us are hurt, we will all, to some degree, hurt others in our lives, right? And so we all have this big sin problem. We need a much bigger salvation than a symbolic burning of our hurts.
This is just misplaced worship, what we're talking about. It's just people are really wanting to worship, and they're just misplacing it. I hope Kirby just spoke with his friend on the chat, told him to watch the live streams. He said he's not going to Burning Man. Kirby had a friend that was going, so praise the Lord. That's really good. Well, if you're watching, if you're watching, friend, yeah, we're ecstatic about that, and that's so good. Let's find communion in each other in the church, like Tim's been talking about.
That's one thing I think Christians should take away. The generations longing for experience. A lot of times in our circles, we're very strong on truth, because truth is powerful and truth is true, no matter what we think or feel about it. But
that's right.
This generation, they want to feel something. And I think sometimes we can poo-poo that in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And not only do they want to feel something, they want to belong. And so they'll go to these things and feel like, oh, I belonged there, right? So many young people grow up in the church and they feel like, especially in that gap where they graduate high school, I call it, it's almost like a second puberty. They don't know how to have friends or relationships within the church.
Yes.
And in many cases, at a lot of churches, it can easily just become, oh, we come to a service, maybe another class, but we don't really have our closest friends and relationships here. As best as it's up to us to let them know, hey, you belong here, and
Mm-hmm.
this is a real family in Christ that will walk with you through your whole life.
I think that's what people are longing for. And quite frankly, sometimes bad churches I was a part of a church that the leaders of the church viewed the sheep or the members of the church as people that needed to serve them. So the leaders had it flipped. Rather than serving the people and fostering community and togetherness, donate and give us money so we can direct it and put it on this or that. And that's just not biblical Christianity at all. We're to work and be obedient and love people and help people and tell them about Jesus and share the gospel and pray for souls to be harvested and saved. I mean, we all have this angst. They're just kind of turning and saying, well, maybe this Burning Man will do it where there's drugs and sex and rock and roll and art and all this, stuff that's going to bring me knowledge and fulfill me and give me an experience like you're talking about.
That longing in the human heart, knowing this world is not right.
Yes.
That's why in the Lord's Prayer, Jesus said, pray like this, right? He said, our Father art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, right? That's the longing, is this perfect kingdom to come. And this perfect kingdom, it's only going to come with the perfect king.
Sure, there's some good stuff that goes on. I don't want to act like there's nothing good. But there's a lot of debauchery and these words that I just read out of 2 Timothy, that's really what's going on. That's what we're trying to warn people, is like, they're pulling you in, they're wooing you to come do this, but beware. I'm afraid to watch any Burning Man videos, people putting out a video of their experience, but I don't want to see it. I mean, I don't want to see it. I don't have to imagine or see it to know that it's ungodly. It makes me sad to think about people just giving themselves over to sin. And my only hope is that God is redemptive.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What do you recommend local churches do to try and bridge the big jump from youth group culture to typical adult church culture?
When you're talking about the kids who grew up in the church and you want them to stay in the church, my strategy, I call it the 3 beliefs. It's going to differ from church to church and even from year to year, decade to decade. First of all is, will I grow here? Like, is this a place where I'm actually growing in my relationship with Christ? There are a lot of young adults who you'll be surprised. They feel like they're not learning a lot at their church, right? Mm-hmm. So, or growing closer to Christ. Another one is, am I needed here? I've been in ministry since 2012, where a lot of times it was the exact opposite of what you expected. The star students and youth group were often the ones who most quickly left the church. The people who stayed were like the real quiet kid who served in the media booth. That guy stayed. So what's going on here? He was comfortable coming to church and joking around with people who were middle-aged or older than him and actually getting along with them, and felt like he was serving and felt like he belonged here. Where the person who their whole life was youth group and just being, prominent among the teens, well, then they enter the adults and they don't know how to interact with adults, don't know how to be friends with them. They're certainly not prominent anymore. So, will I grow here? Am I needed here? And the third is, will I have friends here? That's a huge one for young adults. There's these fraternities or video game clubs or whatever on my campus, seems like that's where I'm going to find my real friends. And church, you've got all these old people and this and that. And if they stay home, a lot of their friends go to different colleges and cities and states. A lot of times they feel like, man, I don't think I have friends here anymore. That's always what I'm trying to do with every single class. So I want to convince them of the beliefs that you will grow here, you are needed here, and you have friends here. And how you go about that, there's no copy and paste from church to church, but I think that puts you on the right trajectory, is to try to help them to believe those things and for them to be a reality.
Those that are probably closest to me know that I have a real heart for young people. I taught a workshop in Louisiana a few months ago. I just taught the workshop toward them. They were on the front row and I was looking at them. I was trying to keep them engaged and asking them questions, and they were participating. What I found was the adults loved it too, because it was much more of an engaging kind of course, a workshop, than just me lecturing and talking for the whole hour. But I was getting participation, and I like doing those kinds of formats when it's appropriate, because I think it's a good way to get people to think and to engage and to think about scripture and how do I apply this in my life. And so it's not about getting a blessing only, but it's about being a blessing as well. I know the last month or so, I've needed people to minister to me just as much as I probably ministered to them. And you have other seasons where I can be an encouragement and help to others. Your age range that you're working with, is it like mainly 18 to...
It's like 18 to 25 mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's critical. So we're grateful. Mm-hmm. Everybody watching, pray for Tim as he ministers to that demographic downtown and just does a fantastic job.
I need the prayer. I need it.
Yeah, that's right. We all do. Amen.
I think it's real embodied relationships. And as a church, I think we kind of got a little bit rabbit trailed on wanting to be, every pastor wanted to be a celebrity pastor, every musician wanted to be a celebrity musician. When it's like, no, there are a handful of people who need you to be really present in their lives. And if we recapture a vision for local personal relationships, that's the biggest difference we can make. It's in quality over quantity, I think.
Tim, thank you. This has been great. I just, I love working with you, serving the Lord with you and his people. And you've been a blessing in my life. And I look forward to having more time with you in the future, if you'll allow that. And
of course.
Well, that'll do it for this episode. But you guys, thanks for tuning in, and thank you, Tim, for being our special guest, our resident expert. As you have heard a lot and seen a lot on this, and I just wanted people to be aware of it. I think for me, being in my stage of life, and I deal with 55 plus, and I don't hear about these things, and so I appreciate having guys who are have their finger on the pulse on these kinds of things, because we really do have to go after young people and encourage them to know Christ and be a part of the church. I loved your questions too, to get them connected, and so So anyway, thank you, Tim. Thank you guys for joining us. That'll be all. Take care and God bless.